2024 is about to finish, and I want to share with you what I expect from the new year 2025 in terms of immigration and especially green cards. Hi, my name is Oscar, and as you know, I'm a scientist and not a lawyer, and in this channel we cover green cards like EB2NAW, EB1A, in which you can be the owner of your own immigration future, because you can do this without a company sponsoring you, without having that job offer, but also because you can do it by yourself in a do-it-yourself way without hiring a lawyer that will cost you thousands of dollars. So, 2025 is just about to start. I want to, of course, wish you a great year, but also I want to take a few minutes to look back and especially look forward to what may come in the US for this immigration space. And here I have the picture of the two new best friends that the White House will have, Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And because I will touch a couple of times about this relationship that will maybe shape what is coming in the next months. Don't take this video as a prediction. I hate predictions. This is just my personal take on different risks that I see, different probabilities of things to happen. I also want to point out that you shouldn't panic. I'm going to cover a lot of negative things, a lot of risks that I see from the new administration, but I don't say this to put fear in you, but to make you aware of these things so they are on your radar and you can be proactive about it, you can stay informed and take the best decision for your family. Let's start with this video by covering my general view of what is about to happen. If last year, for example, when I did this video, I came with a few items on my watch list that actually did become true. In that case, it was easier to predict what would happen in 2024. There was no change of administration, there was a continuity. We talked about the increase in fees that actually happened. We talked about the visa bulletin not really changing that much, which actually also happened. What I expect from next year is that there's going to be a lot of uncertainty, maybe even some chaos, because Donald Trump is becoming president on January 20th, and we know that he has run this campaign being really anti-immigration, and I know that many of you in the comments will say, well, he's only anti-illegal immigration. I have my doubts, like we will discuss in a second, but he has that rhetoric that he brings, and also he is a pretty erratic politician. And I also know that a few of you didn't like that when I said it in one or two videos, but look, this is a man that tweets at 3 a.m. in the morning about policy, important policy he plans to execute when he becomes president. He did that also during the 4 years he was already president, and he has kept doing that in the recent days. So this is someone that you cannot really predict reliably what he's going to do, unlike other politicians that may have more serious and steady platforms that they run on and they will try to execute. Donald Trump may say one thing one day and then do something differently, and nobody would be surprised, okay? That is true to some extent to many politicians, that is true, but I think with him, his personality is way more erratic than others. So I expect a lot of uncertainty, especially in the first months of office, especially right now as we go into the transition. He has this relationship with Elon Musk, and maybe in the immigration world, maybe that could bring something good, because Elon Musk is a little bit pro merit-based immigration. We'll have to see if he can have some influence there, because there's other characters in that government that are really, really anti-immigration, including legal immigration. You can go to Project 2025, which was an organization that is heavily tied to Donald Trump's campaign, even though he tried to separate himself from them. If you go to Project 2025 website, download their political platform for what is about to happen in the near future, you will see how their immigration stances are really, really aggressive, even for merit-based immigration, okay? So we will have to monitor Donald Trump's tweets and also his new best friend's tweets, Elon Musk, to read what could happen in the following weeks, okay? Let's talk about a few concrete examples that I have on my radar for the next year. Let's start with non-green card processes, okay? I'm going to cover this quickly because this is not the focus of this channel, but I know that many of you may be involved in different processes and you want to hear a little bit of everything. So let me cover this quickly. What I think that are the biggest risks are, of course, those related to immigrants without a status or a valid entry, what we know as illegal immigration. Donald Trump and his people really announced that they will look for these immigrants and they will remove them from the United States. We will have to see to what extent they will do that. They talked about millions of people being affected, but of course there is an economic cost to it, and Elon Musk is going to be supposedly watching how much money the administration spends on multiple programs. So we'll have to see if this is doable. But for sure, this is the biggest risk, and I think we will see actions on day one, okay? Other things that I think are high risk are programs like humanitarian parole, these kind of permits for people to be in the US legally, asylum programs as well. Temporary protected status are also programs that I think they will just let expire and not renew. But we'll have to see on a case by case, on a country by country basis. I also think a lot of visa interview waivers will end. In the past years, we have seen more and more waivers applied to interviews in consulate, embassies, but especially inside the United States. And that, I think, is coming to an end with Donald Trump's administration. And other risks that I see related to non-green card processes are tightening on a few different programs. And here I highlight a couple of them. H1B, the specialty worker programs, they will suffer, in my opinion, tightening, meaning it will become more difficult to get the visa. Maybe the numbers will be lower, even though Elon Musk has just in the last 24 hours voiced his support for this kind of program. We'll have to see which wing of the Republican Party will win, the more conservative one or that of Elon Musk and others that are calling for more highly skilled immigrants to come to the United States. And another thing that I see associated with the H1 program is the H4 EAD, the work permit for spouses of H visa holders, which is, in my opinion, at risk. In the previous term, Donald Trump tried to remove this type of permit. Now I think it's going to happen again, which is really, really bad for families that are in the US with the H visa program. STEM OPT rescission or rework, this is something that also Donald Trump was looking at in the previous term. Is something that may come back, even though that this program is super helpful for highly skilled immigrants who maybe completed a doctorate or a master's and are on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math fields. And this is their way to remain in the US for 3 years while they find their way into other programs, for example, NIW or H visas or something like that. I think there's a fair chance that this program may suffer, but we'll have to see how. L visas also I see tightening on that. L visas are for managers or also specialty workers that are being transferred to the US. Now let's focus on our favorite green cards. EB2NW, EB1A, I think, as I said in previous videos, I think more scrutiny is coming for the I-140 stage of the process. That's the more difficult part of the process where you have to submit your petition arguing that you fulfill the requirements. I think we will probably see more requests for evidence and denials in the coming months. But remember that we are already seeing that under Biden, and this is anecdotal evidence from all the cases that I interact with. And definitely I have observed a higher number of RFPs in the last 6 months or so, and that's something that also lawyers are reporting. So maybe we just see a continuation of that trend. And maybe we will see Donald Trump be more amenable to certain fields, maybe cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, because of Elon Musk, maybe anything related to what Elon Musk does, because there's certainly a conflict of interest with the involvement of this person in the administration. So I think there's going to be a few areas in EB2NAW that people shouldn't really fear that much, because the new government is probably going to try to strengthen those fields by bringing in more people, but there will be others that in general will suffer from more RFEs and denials. Fewer adjustment of status interview waivers. Right now, a lot of interview waivers are granted. That started mostly from COVID times, and it has been kept, which is great. A lot of you who get an I-140 approved in these two programs, if you are in the US, you don't really end up going to a USCIS center to be interviewed. And that, I think, is going to change. And we will see longer processing times because of this, because if you have to go to an interview, everything will take longer, of course. And back to the I-693 medical exam expiration. Right now, the medical exam doesn't expire. That is quite a recent development. Maybe we will go back to a place where your medical exams will expire, and that will again add more processing time and more scrutiny, more need for staffing from USCIS to control all these things. Shorter work permit and travel document card validity. Right now, I think they are granting work permits for 5 years, and that will probably change, and they will make it shorter. But again, these are all things that are subject to change depending on what the administration finally does. Entry bans for certain countries. This happened during the first Trump administration. In fact, the first ban that they issued, people were already in the plane traveling to the United States when the executive order was signed by Trump, and they learned about it when they arrived in the United States. And this would affect even people who just got a green card approval abroad. They would be affected by this type of ban. Google Muslim ban or COVID ban, and you can read a little bit more of what happened at that time. It will be, like many other things, it will be challenged in court, but it may happen. I don't think it will happen in that way where people find out when they are flying into the US. They will probably give a few days of notice, but I think something like this could very well happen. And this is something I read online. I think as we go down in the list, by the way, I think the likelihood decreases. I ordered this from more likely to less likely as we go down. One thing that could happen is that backlogged countries may be prevented to apply to this type of green cards altogether, at least temporarily. But this would need Congress approval. So that's why I think this is way less likely than, for example, higher scrutiny for I-140s or the end of interview waivers for adjustment of status. Then this is not directly related to green cards, but people who have a green card after 5 years can apply for naturalization and be a citizen. And I think one risk is that they make the exam process a little bit harder for people. If you are interested in this kind of process, we have eb1greencard.info and eb2naw.info and their counterparts in Spanish and Portuguese. These websites can help do-it-yourself petitioners like you to find all the information they need to understand these green card processes, this merit-based process. And above everything we have, I recommend that you take a look at our online courses. Here on screen, you have the EB2NAW course curriculum. We have 10 modules full of video lectures where we teach the different stages of the process, how to craft a petition cover letter, how to find recommenders and craft recommendation letters, professional business plans. You can submit questions in each lesson, and once a month for NAW, we meet in a video call where you can bring your own questions face to face. We have great reviews. We average a 4.5 star for the EB2NAW course and 5 stars for the EB1A course. So what are you waiting for? Join us in the course. And let's talk a little bit about other things that are even less likely. For example, a bigger green card reform that would need Congress approval, but this needs Republicans agreeing with each other. Why? Because yes, Republicans obtained a majority in the November elections, but they have 220 votes in the House compared to 215 for the Democrats. Even though that is a majority, it's not a huge majority, okay? With 5 people changing their vote, they would already be in trouble. And the Senate is similar. They have 53 to 47 majority. Yes, they do have majority in both chambers, which is definitely an advantage for them. But remember that these parties are not monoliths. And if a few of them disagree with something, that will put the majority at risk. We could see a potential point-based system for green cards instead of or on top of EB2NW and EB1A. This was an idea that was already floated in the first Trump presidency, and it could be again restarted. And it is very unclear what would be the fate of the per country visa limit, but any change to that visa bulletin thing where we have a 7% maximum of green cards going to a particular country, which is what is causing the China and the India huge backlog, that requires a change in the law. So again, a majority would be needed in both chambers, and then it would have to be signed by Donald Trump, by the president. All of these things are less likely, but we should keep an eye on them. Another thing that I think is a little bit more likely is that they again look at increasing fees for many of the processes, even though we just went through a huge fee hike by the Biden administration. I think Republicans could look at it again and again increase USCIS fees. Another thing that I didn't put here is the green card lottery. I think the green card lottery is going to finish. I think they also need to do it through a law, but I believe that that is a program that is really, really at risk, and I wouldn't be surprised that that will be ended. Let's talk very briefly about processing times. Processing times have not really changed a lot. May 2022, if we went to the USCIS website for processing times, we could see that for NAW, we had 20.5 months of wait time for 80% of the cases. So 80% of the cases were completed within 20 months in Texas. I'm using Texas for all these comparisons. October 2023, it went down dramatically to 10.5 months. And the situation right now is similar. Anecdotally, I can tell you that it has been increasing steadily. And that's something we can also see here. This is data from this website that USCIS has to publish median processing times. I think it's more accurate than the previous one, but it doesn't break things down to NAW or EB1A. So for example, here in this graph, we have I-140 process, which encompass all I-140s. And we can see how things have fluctuated over the last 10 fiscal years. We saw that with Trump, there was definitely an increase at the beginning from 2016 to 17 and 18, and then it came down again during COVID, we must say. And then during Biden, it went up and down again. So not a huge clear trend there. For adjustment of status, definitely Trump did cause an increase in the processing time. We were at less than 6 months when he took office, and we went to over 10, okay? Now the situation has come down. The processing times for adjustment of status are definitely going down, and something similar happened with EAD cards, work permits. With Trump, we saw an increase 2017, 18, 19, 20. You see how it got worse with Trump, but it got even worse with Biden, most likely because of the pandemic, I have to be honest. And the situation has been rectified since then, okay? So what do I expect about processing times? I think we will not see great improvements. We will see a stable situation or things deteriorating a little bit, things becoming a little bit slower for all the reasons that I gave earlier. More obstacles, less staffing. Think about it. If they reduce the number of waivers they are giving for interviews, if they are reducing the expiration date for things like work permits or medical exams, what is natural is that the processing times will increase. There's more steps on the way, and things will just become slower. Unless they do something to counter that, like improving the electronic submissions, and for cases like NAW or EB1A, enable electronic filing of those forms, which I don't think is going to come in 2025. The situation is going to be, like I said, deteriorating a little bit in 2025. Let's take a look at our community, because I also like to go back and see what we have been doing during this year. In this YouTube channel, we have published 45 videos, 43 shorts, and we went live 3 times. And I expect that we will keep this rate of production, maybe a little bit less in 2025 as we focus on other things, but we will definitely keep coming here every 1 or 2 weeks with a new video, and we will ramp up the lives a little bit. You saw with Marina, which was, by the way, a great addition in 2024. You saw how with her we have been doing more lives recently, and we will continue doing that. We also have a channel in Spanish here in YouTube. We produced 38 videos and 16 shorts, so it was great. And by the way, Marina again is a big part of that. If you speak Spanish, you know her already because of that. And we have a couple of courses where we are very active with the community. And during this year, we of course improve the courses, we update them all the time with changes to the regulations, but also just for technical upgrades and to provide better explanations on things. And we translate it or we provide subtitles in 5 languages for both of those courses, okay? We have now 4 websites for EB2NAW, 3 of them for that category in different languages, and 1 for EB1A. We also have an Instagram page and a TikTok page, and so you can find us in a lot of different venues. And of course, like I said, we will keep being here. We will keep focusing on our courses. I think we are providing a really, really great tool for do-it-yourself practitioners. We will keep them updated. We will keep them being the best tool that I know of, especially at that price point. And we actually are going to release a new course now in January 2025, a course that focuses on requests for evidence. We have been seeing so many people need help with that. So we are going to provide that new tool. Other than that, we will come back here and let you know of any news that we have in terms of new products or new websites or whatever it is. I'm sure 2025 will bring news also for this community. And above all, I wanted to finish this video wishing you a great 2025. We will be here to navigate the risks, the obstacles that the new administration may bring. Be proactive, don't panic, but really know what is going on so you can decide what is the best situation, what is the best process for you and your family, so you can anticipate and create your plan B, your plan C, so you can remain in the US or you can come to the US no matter what your situation is without much trouble, okay? So the question for you is, what do you expect from 2025 in terms of immigration, of course? What do you think that will happen with EB2NAW, EB1A programs? What do you think it will happen to other programs that allow immigrants to stay or come to the United States? Do you think that Elon Musk will have some influence also in the immigration space and we will see a little bit more open view on these programs from the new Trump administration compared to what we saw in the recent years of rhetoric? Or are you a little bit pessimistic? Leave a comment below, and again, Happy New Year 2025. I'll see you in the next video. Good luck with your green card process.